Hi, it's Kate from Zen Stitching, and we're here with you today for part of our Making Zen May 2025 series. And today we have the pleasure of talking with Margeaux Davis, who is from Willowan. And Margeaux is a fellow Aussie. Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so thrilled that you're here. And we've been doing a little bit of chatting off air, just kind of like establishing where we are in the world and all of that kind of stuff. And I understand you're in northern New South Wales on the coast. Is that right?
Yes, I'm on northern New South Wales. We're near the coast. It's I don't know if anyone out there knows Australia at all, but it's near Byron Bay, Lismore sort of area, so subtropical.
Yeah, very pretty part of the world. And I also heard some birds chirping in the background earlier too, which I'm
Yes.
sure probably helps with some of your inspiration of being an artist and
Yeah,
designer.
I think so. Where I live is very green, and we are surrounded by cow paddocks and macadamia farms. We've got rainforest up the road in a national park. At the moment, it's 7 o'clock in the morning here, so all the birds are just starting to wake up and talk to each other. But my background is as it is in environmental education. I used to be a park ranger, so I think I'm mostly inspired by the natural world, animals and plants. The tutorial that I'd love to share with you guys in the retreat is making little toadstools and mushrooms, which is something that I was inspired by whenever I went out into the national parks or even just around here in the yard. There's lots of um, natural, plants and animals and things like that. So that's my thing, I
Yeah.
think.
I love it, and I love hearing that you were a national parks ranger and very much in the environment. What inspired you to transition from that kind of environmental role and into more of your artistic role that you do these days?
Well, when I was a ranger, I was very creative and I would paint and draw and sew in my spare time. And then I had a baby and took maternity leave, and that ended up being 2 years because I had a second baby after that. So I spent my time looking after my babies and making, drawing, painting, sewing in my spare time. And eventually I decided to try and figure out a way to stay home with my kids. And I set up my business, which is Willowan. So I started off making dolls and creatures and ornaments and things like that. And then I noticed that it seemed like a lot of people were interested in my work because they were inspired to make something themselves. Um, and I made toys for my kids, but I think part of the appeal for them was the fact that it was made by their mother. It just made it a little bit more special. I was making toys and selling them to other people, but I kind of felt like making it yourself and giving it to your own child or grandchild or friend's baby is just that much more special. So I decided to try and make sewing patterns from my designs, and that went really, really well. I think I get a lot more satisfaction helping other people make them than making them myself, because I've got all of these designs that I figured out over the years sitting there. I mean, I could keep making them myself, but helping other people to make them just means that they're much more widely dispersed throughout the world. And one of
Yes.
my favorites is the little mushroom, and that's probably one of my most popular designs or sewing patterns. So that's something I'm really excited to share with everybody.
I meant to ask you, have you got one on hand that we could see?
I do. I've
Oh,
got,
fabulous.
I don't know if this is going to, so it's, I don't know if you can see that.
Mhm.
It's pleated underneath like the gills of a toadstool or a mushroom, and it's quite hard. There's a little bit of a base inside, but I will explain how to make that. Um, we've got lots of different colors as well.
Look. They're so
It's
fun.
a very addictive little project.
I love it. And I'm curious because you say that you kind of, whilst you're a ranger, you were doing all this drawing and making and crafting on the side. Did you come from a creative background? What kind of inspired you to be in the creative realm?
I've always liked making things, and my dad is an artist. He's a painter and a musician. My mum was very creative, mostly in the garden and photography, but I think it's just something that I've just carried through from being a child. It's just everybody has their thing, and mine is making little bits and pieces. I used to be into paper mache and pressing flowers. It's always something, and this seems to be the thing that's stuck
Yeah.
mostly. Right now, I design sewing patterns and I make dolls and soft toys, but I also illustrate children's books and write
Mm.
children's books. So it's very immersed in the making things part of
Yeah.
my personality at the moment.
Oh, how delightful. And with your books that you write and illustrate, is it a series? I'd love to know a little bit more about them.
I've written and illustrated a book that was published last year. That's about a snail, and it's called What Stars Are For. That's available here in Australia. I think it's about to be published in the UK. Um, but I mostly illustrate books for other people working with different publishers here in Australia. And I've just always got one book project on the go. So I do
Wow.
one book project and I keep my sewing pattern business going as well. So it's very busy but great. It's a dream.
It does sound like a lot of fun to have a little bit of the drawing and illustrating side of things in addition to the making and the creative side of
Yeah,
your business as well. Yeah.
yeah.
With your illustrating, is there preferred mediums or techniques that you like to work with?
I really like watercolor. I'm still haven't figured out the digital process for creating illustrations. So I'm watercolor, pencil, and paper, um, and then I do scan them and I fix things up using Photoshop. So that's the extent of my um, digital know-how. But yeah, just watercolor and pencil.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something about the tactility of creating with a paintbrush and, the watercolor. Particularly, I find one of the delightful things about watercolor is you can't accurately predict exactly how it's going to dry. Like there's always a little bit of magic. You never quite know what the pigments are going to do. And I think that's the excitement that I like working with watercolor. So I'm imagining that maybe it's a similar thing for you. There's just that tactility that screen doesn't have for
Yeah,
digital.
I think the happy mistakes is part of the appeal with watercolor paintings, and the more organic and less perfect and messy. I really like those. I don't like it when it's too, neat, and I don't want it to look too perfect. I want it to be obvious that it was done with a paintbrush and paper.
Yeah, yeah, got that handmade touch to it.
I
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah, I do too. It's just a wonderful way of engaging with the materials, but also I think as the viewer, you can relate to it more as well. There's a human element that you can connect with there too.
I think so. And I think that's something that I really like with toy making as well. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like it's so much more special when a toy is handmade, particularly by someone that, if it's for a child, someone that a child knows, because it's not going to be perfect and it's going to have little mistakes, but that's part of the beauty of it because it was made by someone. I know that the little quirks. I remember the first whale that I made for my little boys. if you look at it, I was so proud of it when I first made it. Never made anything before. I'd totally made it up myself, made it with old clothes. And at the time, I thought it was the best thing in the world. But now I look at it and like the fins are uneven, and there's visible stitching everywhere where there shouldn't be. It's an absolute mess. But it's still, I'll keep it forever. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, it totally is. And I think the mark of the maker is really what makes it so special. And it's so lovely that you have it still too, so that you can look back at it and go, that was one of the first ones I've done, and now look as well. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I think there's something beautiful about um, I don't want to say naivety of the design the first time it's done, the innocence perhaps of just creating and doing it because you want to and going with the flow. It always makes me think of one of the things I learned in my creative process because I love creating. So first and foremost, I'm a textile artist, but I've done ceramics and I've done jewelry making. So I have tried a whole lot of different other techniques as well. And I remember with the ceramics in particular, it definitely isn't as easy as Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore made it look like on Ghost, like where they just did this and you got these beautiful pots being pulled. And I'm sitting there and I'm wrestling with the clay and I'm getting so frustrated. And I was very lucky to have a teacher who had trained in Japan. So he understood the zen of ceramics and throwing pots. And one thing in particular, I was trying to get these really beautiful cylinders, very, very factory made, actually. I was trying to get them so perfect. And they had wobbles in them and all kinds of stuff. And he said, you know what, Kate? Embrace those wobbles because the better you get at being a ceramicist, you can't put those wobbles back in again. Like there's something just so unique and original, and you
Yeah,
won't be
that's
able to do that again. And I really embrace that. I think there's something nice about having that in the moment creativity. Don't try and make it perfect, just go with it. And that kind of shines through the finished piece as well.
and the bravery of just doing it anyway. I think the Japan is it wabi sabi of embracing the imperfections, and that's what makes it special.
Yeah.
And I have taught a couple of workshops quite a while ago now with the mushrooms, and we had so much fun. And it was interesting to see how nervous people were to start making a sewing project, just the nerves and the stress. And it's just, to try and get it right, or it has to look a certain way. And I thought it was a really nice philosophical thing to do a project and not worry about that and just try and talk people through. It's okay. It's okay if it doesn't look the way that you wanted it to look because it's your first one. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think there's a lot of grace about letting go with that too. And also being kind to ourselves again, because I've taught a lot too. There's a lot of people ask for permission, like, is it okay if I do this? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, do it. And they're like, what happens if I do that? And I'm like, that's a good question. This might happen, but you might discover something else in the process. So give it a go. And I think there's a whole kind of like letting go that I think as adults, we kind of think that everything has to be just right and not allowed to play and all that kind of stuff. But in fact, that's where the magic happens most of the time.
I think that question, what if, is one of the most important things in creativity. Is what happens if I do this, or what if I do it this little bit, and this is where you discover things and you maybe come up with a new idea. You got to embrace the what ifs, don't you?
Yes, exactly. It's embracing the what ifs. And also, I found for me, and I'd be interested to know for you as well, but I find my best ideas come when I'm actually making and interacting with the materials. Like I can think about it till the cows come home, so to speak. But it's not until I actually start playing with it, I'm like, ooh, oh, yeah.
Right.
Is that how you create, or how do you? how did
Oh,
your creations come into being?
uh, prototypes. Just lots and lots of mistakes is probably the best way. I think
Mm.
persistence and determination and just being willing to unpick and start again, or just put the thing that you're making to the side and start a new one. But you learned something in that first one. You learned that those legs were not quite right, and I think I'll do it a different way this time. But even with illustrating, that's the only way you can figure it out is by getting a big sheet of paper and just drawing it out and letting your ideas just fill a massive sheet. And I think it's the same with sewing. You can't be too precious. You have to just start. I have lots of old bed sheets and I cut them all up and I use them. So I'm not precious about fabric if I'm in the ideas stage, and I'll just make prototype after prototype. Um, I think one of the things that I've made recently was an orca or a killer whale, and the amount of orcas on my table that were not quite right was pretty funny. But yeah, you've just got to keep doing it and keep making mistakes, and then you'll learn something for the next go.
Yeah.
Um, it's knowing when to stop, I think, is the hard. Like knowing when to go, that's good enough, that's
That's
great.
yes,
Yeah,
that's a definite art in itself, isn't it? Yeah, because you can keep
definitely.
doing it and doing it and doing it, and then yeah, you overdo it. And I think sometimes that too, um, that knowing when to stop is really helpful because sometimes the idea becomes so over refined that it loses some of that initial energy as well, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's part of art, isn't it? I've heard my dad say so many times that art is knowing when to stop, when to walk away. That's fine. Keep working on it, you're going to mess it up. Just leave it.
Yeah. Yes. Well, particularly with a painting, because that's not as easily undone as you can unpick some stitches and
Yeah,
that
the
kind of
seam
thing.
ripper doesn't
Yes.
exist. That, especially
Mm-mm-mm.
with watercolor, it's just start again.
But like you say, those what happens if you learn if they're not quite the desired outcome. And sometimes, even though they're not the right outcome, you might look at them later and go, that's an interesting way of doing something. So
Yeah.
there's always a lesson to be learned in it all, I think.
Yeah, definitely. That,
Yeah.
if you come back a few days later and look at something, it looks completely different, and you notice things that are really beautiful that you didn't notice when you were feeling frustrated
Yes.
in the process of making it. So sometimes it's good just to walk away and take a break and come back, and you'll see what you've made, and it's more often than not very beautiful.
So true. Oh, that's such wise words and advice there is just that if you're getting frustrated, just stop. Yeah, give yourself a break
Yeah, with
because yes,
everything, isn't it?
you do, because otherwise you're so focused on a particular outcome that you forget to look at it for what it really is. So yeah, that's wonderful, wonderful words of advice.
Yeah.
And thinking about what you were saying, where you try prototype after prototype after prototype, I'm curious to know how many orcas have you got sitting on your table at the moment?
20 something, but
Really?
I
Wow.
think, yeah, I don't keep all of them. A lot of the first ones are made from bed sheets, and I sometimes, if it's so awful and there's nothing to be learned from it other than the process and the memory of it, I'll take all the stuffing out because I'm also very frugal. I don't like to have stuffing sitting in something that's not going to be anything, and then they start to get a little bit better, a little bit, and then I start to get brave and I start using the right fabric because I think
Mm.
maybe this one, will be it, and often it's not. But that's okay, and I keep those ones if I've made them from the proper fabric. My room is starting to fill up with wonky wonky creatures and wonky dolls. But yeah, there are some that are so bad that they get ripped up and the stuffing pulled out.
Yeah. Oh my. I love the process though when you say you like working with old bed sheets because it's not too precious, which means that it kind of eliminates some of that first fear or tentative approach to doing something, because if you've got your
Yeah,
favorite fabric and it's so special and you don't want to do the wrong thing,
yeah,
you'll never touch it. Whereas at least, with a bed sheet or something, it's like, oh well, if it doesn't work, it
yeah,
doesn't work. It's no big deal. So that's
yeah.
that's a brilliant idea working with bed sheets.
It's like a sketch because as you were saying before, you can't, it's impossible to figure something out in your head. You have to actually make the thing to be able to see what it's going to look like. And in the illustration world, that's sketching on the sheet of scrappy paper. So making prototypes with bed sheets is like the sketching process, but
I
not
just
in the good notebook.
I guess that's true, isn't it? There's also the good notebook. And I'm just thinking of you now because if you like to use your bed sheets as prototypes, do you suddenly kind of start eyeing off the current bed sheets and you're like, I need a new one?
Yeah. Oh, if something gets torn or worn out in the middle, I think, oh well, that's probably, you know, steal it before it's probably ready to ready to be
Yeah.
chucked out. But yeah, things wearing out in our house is not an issue because they're going to be used for in my workroom.
Yeah. Oh, how lovely. I'm just thinking we've got some old flannelette shirt sheets, which would be perfect for playing with, especially for like soft toys and that
Oh,
kind of
that's
thing.
yeah, flannelette sheets
Mm,
are gold for
mm,
toys. A lot of my
mm.
little bunnies and bears. I've got this one. I think it's like a king size sheet, but it's grey flannelette. And I don't actually think it has been used. I bought it secondhand. It seems quite new. But as soon as I saw it, and it was so soft to touch, and it does have that sort of nubbly, worn kind of feeling,
Mm.
but it does seem quite new. I have been using that for years to make bunnies and bears, and I'll be so sad when it runs out because you can't just go into a shop and buy the most perfect soft flannelette bit of fabric, and it's just the right color as well. So yeah,
Mm.
I'm always eyeing off sheets, and baby blankets are really lovely for soft toys. Just
Mm.
the really soft feel.
I was just thinking because I guess I just came with the preconceived notion to use new fabric for your toys, but when in absolute fact, it's a great idea to use recycled stuff,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
even if it's not the prototype, because you get the
yeah,
beautiful the feel of the worn fabric, and
yeah,
if the fabric has come from someone special, you kind of can reuse it in that
yeah.
way as well.
Yeah, I often selling the sewing patterns. I think one of my most popular set of toy. I've got these little animal dolls: a fox, a wolf, an elephant, bunny, and a bear. Um, I often get emails from customers saying that they're going to make like memory dolls. So they'll make the doll using a piece of clothing from someone that they've lost, which I think is a really lovely idea. So like someone's favorite T-shirt, they've got this special thing they don't know what to do with it, so they make it into a bear and or an elephant or something like that, and it just becomes that. So I often that's probably my most received email is that someone's asking about different fabric because they've got this special piece of fabric that happens to be a bit of clothing from someone that they've lost. Can they use it to make into a toy? And I say, absolutely, but not if it's really stretchy. If it's really stretchy, that's going to make you tear your hair out because
Yeah.
stuffing something with stretchy fabric is just it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, which can be maybe that's the look that you're going for. I don't know, but it is quite frustrating.
Yeah. Oh, I do love that. And I was just thinking about you could, like you say, you're going to get frustrated if you're using it to come up with a particular outcome. But if you're open to possibilities, you might come up with something new.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, if I have never completed a doll from start to finish from stretchy fabric because I've always gotten very frustrated with the stretchy factor. But maybe if you go with it, you might end up with something adorable.
Well, that's a very good point, though. So, for people who are starting off and they're going to join us for Making Zen, and then they're going to follow along with your mushroom course, which I can't
Yes.
wait. It just looks like so much fun. Pretty much, what you're saying is we might be able to shop our stash or look at old clothes and use what we have at
Oh,
home rather than having to go out and buy new things.
absolutely. I think the mushroom I showed you before, this little one here, it's made from this particular one, red linen on the top, which came from a skirt of mine. So I'm quite short, so I hem the bottom of my skirts all the time, and I've always got like this much fabric. So that's perfect for mushroom making. And the bit underneath is actually from an old bed sheet.
Oh, wow.
Um, it's a perfect bed sheet because it has absolutely no stretch in it whatsoever. So it's really great for folding pleats and getting pleats to be quite stiff. And the inside to create the stiffness, the stiff base underneath, I've actually cut up old milk bottles, so plastic milk bottles. I'll just cut a disc out of that. And because it's plastic and it's slightly bendy, but it's firm, it's absolutely perfect. And everyone's got stuff like that in their recycling bin. So nothing was bought new to make, except maybe the stuffing. I do like to use wool, but that has come from a sheep from a friend of mine, so I didn't buy that either. It's got a very lovely lanolin smell to it, which is really nice. And then I use crochet cotton to create the little French knots on the top and the blanket stitch around the side. And crochet cotton can be found in any secondhand store, thrift store, op shop as we call them here in Australia. So absolutely no need to go out and buy brand new materials. And if you've got a stash, which we all do, then this is the perfect project. Another one of my little mushrooms, I've used velvet, like a brown velvet, which is also really fun for a top of a mushroom. So the options are endless.
Yes. Oh, I do love it. I'm so excited. I can't wait for your workshop. It's going to be so much fun.
Right.
And yeah, wrapping up, I'm wondering, Margot, if you have any tips or hints for people about the creative process, or what if maybe what's the most asked question that you get that can help people get started?
Oh, yes. A lot of people, I think we've touched on it a bit throughout our chat, but just that fear of starting, I think, is the thing that holds people back, and the preciousness of using beautiful fabric. I think it's easy to say, but you really just need to get in and start and make mistakes and just have fun with it because it's supposed to be fun. It's not a, I was going to say it's not a job, but it is for me. It's supposed to be a fun, this is why it's called a hobby because it's something that you do to express yourself and try new ideas and learn a new skill. And the only way to learn a new skill is to make mistakes. And if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning anything.
Such
That's
wise
that's my
words.
advice.
I love it. Yes, that's so true. Mistakes are in such an intrinsic part of the creative process. And
Yeah,
yeah, got to embrace them. But we do have a fear of them. That's very true. So it's
yeah,
at least we can play with like recycled materials and not be worried
yeah.
about the preciousness
Yeah, I
of
think
them.
that's the key. It is great to have beautiful, brand new materials. That's fantastic. And I have lots of it, but I haven't cut up any of it. Um, I think if that's what you're worried about, then definitely go down the road of less precious things just to start, just to get you going. And then once you've done it and nothing bad happened, you might feel a little bit more brave to cut up your beautiful um, linen that you bought from the the fabric store.
Well, it's I always find I liken working with new fabric is the same as looking at a blank sheet of paper.
Ugh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's like,
terrifying.
what am I going to do?
I know.
I don't know where to start. Yes. So, if you've got something that's a bit worn and a bit loved, or the blank sheet of paper's got some marks already put on there, then
Yeah,
it's kind of such an easy entry point to kind of
yeah,
get in and play, like you say, have fun and
absolutely.
enjoy the process.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, it's been so lovely talking with you, Margot, and I'm super delighted that you're going to be part of Making Zen. I can't wait to make mushrooms with you, and I know
Great.
everybody else is looking forward to it as well. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you for joining me in this creative journey. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And if you'd like to learn more about Making Zen, please check out the links below where you can find out all about the workshops and creativity, community, and all that kind of good stuff. Wishing you many happy hours of stitching.